I'm the former chair, and we'll wait for Myra when she gets here. She'll take over, but I'd like to ask Sharon Jennings to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sharon. I again remind all members that this meeting and all future QATF meetings are held in person. It is important for all members to be here in order for us to have a quorum. Once quorum is reached in the room, votes cast by those joining virtually can be acknowledged. Members of the public are still able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. I'd also ask members to please turn on your microphone before speaking and deactivate it after your remarks. This will help ensure that everyone is able to be heard by those in the room and online. We will now move on to our agenda review and announcements. Ms. Whittington, you are recognized.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair and members, and thank you so much for stepping in at the 9th hour. We appreciate that. We want to say welcome to everyone who is joining us today in the room and online. We are so glad that you are here. A couple of announcements with state news. On last Friday, Governor DeSantis approved and signed committee substitute for Senate Bill 1380, and it took effect upon his signature. This bill amended the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged Board membership to include 4 state agencies, 2 county managers or administrators, and 5 representatives from various industry backgrounds. We've learned that Director Robert Doyle will be representing the Florida Division of Blind Services, and that they are still awaiting confirmation of the voting members who will represent the Florida Department of Transportation, Agency for Persons with Disabilities, and the Department of Elder Affairs, which rounds out that 4 new members. The other board seats are appointed by the governor, and until action is taken, the current commissioners who are in place currently will continue to serve in their positions. Speaking of board changes, Rachel and I met and conducted a new member orientation with Ms. Jeanette Estes with the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Ms. Estes is now the primary appointee to the board, although I told Ms. Sharon Jennings that she cannot get rid of us this quickly. So Sharon is going to continue to serve as an alternate, and we will see her in the absence of Ms. Estes. With our alternates today, we have joining us Corey Bowers for Wendy Ford. We're expecting Francis Rivas for Betsy Delano. And we have Miss Angie Hunter, who's here for Janae Oles. And we have a new face that we'd like to introduce you to, Mr. Cartier Murrill, who will be the alternate for Calvin Smith in his absence. So lots of changes, lots of new faces, and we will conduct orientations with each of these members to get them up to speed on where we are. MetroPlan Orlando recently launched our 2024 Regional Transportation Survey. We'd like for each of you, if you will, please to take it and share it among your contacts and colleagues. Some of you will recall that we do this public opinion market survey every few years. The data that's gathered is used to inform our planning within the region, and especially it is used for our upcoming 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The survey will be open through Memorial Day weekend, and you will hear a presentation about the results at one of your upcoming meetings, either the August meeting or the November meeting. At your places is lots of stuff today, so I'll go through those things. This is unusual for us to have this much information in front of you, but I want to just go through real quickly. There is a flyer with a short link to that survey that I just mentioned. There's a QR code as well for you to take that survey. You can snap a screenshot of it and share it with your friends and family. Also, please help us to spread the word so that they are able to take that survey. And that's the one that says, what moves you? That is that flyer. Now, a disclaimer, because also on that flyer is the opportunity to win a gift card. Board members, you are not eligible for that, but I hope you will still, I hope that you will still take the survey. It takes about 10 minutes to complete the entire survey, and I want to thank you in advance for doing so. Also at your places, you'll find a save the date announcement. It is giving information about our upcoming Vision Zero Safety Speaker Series. The next one is happening next week on May 23rd. Mr. Charles Brown, who is actually in a session with part of our staff right now. He's the CEO and founder of Equitable Cities. He's going to be with us, and he's going to share some information about how to make our transportation system in our region more equitable to users of all incomes and abilities. And so we invite you to register for that presentation. After that presentation, we're going to have breakout sessions where we will pose some questions and get some feedback. Much of what will be discussed, and we're hoping to hear from, if we can't get the people who we need to hear from, many of you have them as clients that you serve. And so you can speak from their perspective. We want you to share this information with them because we would love to have them in the room as well to hear from the users. But if we can't get the users, we would like to have people who are the conduits who will be able to speak for them. So please visit our website, metroplanorlando.gov. When you land on the homepage, scroll down to what's new or what's news. And the very first article there is that speaker series. And you can use that button to register to attend. The yellow sheet that is at your place, Marianne will provide more information about when she speaks to you later on the agenda. And lastly, you have a copy of the results from the TD Writer Survey that we conducted earlier this year. This survey, I will not go into details in terms of the responses, the written responses. I'll give a high-level overview of the responses that were received, but we wanted you to have a copy of the complete data set there, so you have that at your places. With that, Madam Chair, we do not have any changes to the agenda. And we were expecting Mr. Mike Wilson to be in the room to present our safety moment, but he is probably on that call. He's doing double duty. He's with Charles Brown. And so if we have time, we may be able to come back to Mike later on the agenda. So with that, we are ready to move forward, and our Madam Chair has arrived. And so thank you so much. We are concluding my comments. Mike is not here, so we're ready to move to roll call.
Fantastic, Ms. Whittington. Good morning, everyone, and my apologies. Mommy duties sometimes precede me, so I had a first grade issue today with my 6-year-old. So, but I made it running. I want to move on, and Miss Rachel, you are going to confirm our quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I'll ask members to please prepare for the roll call. Remember to activate your microphone and say here or present when your name is called. Baldwin. Bates.
Here.
Berry.
Present.
Blowers for Ford.
Present.
Campbell.
Yeah.
Coloso Rivas. For Delano. Hickling.
Present.
Jennings for Estes. Kersey Ledgerwood.
Present.
Melia.
Present.
Nueves Ruiz.
Present.
Hunter for Olds.
Present.
Races.
Present.
Smith.
Present.
Stone.
Present.
Uribe.
Here.
Witt.
Present.
Zubritsky.
Present.
Madam Chair, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We are now going to move on to, we have the report from the April 23rd Quality Assurance Task Force meeting. Ms. Berry, you have the floor.
Good morning and thank you. The Quality Assurance Task Force meeting was April 23rd. We had 2 action items on the agenda. We reviewed and recommended approval of the draft 2024 TDSP minor update, and we also reviewed and recommended approval of the annual rate calculations. Lastly, we received a CTC update from Mr. Norm Hickling, and our next meeting is scheduled for July 23rd, 2024, and this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Berry. Do we have any questions or comments from anyone on the board? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public comments on action items. We will now hear public comments on the action items. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and you will be provided 2 minutes or less to speak. If any member of the public wishes to comment and are joining virtually, please use your raise hand function and you will be recognized. Do we have anyone in person that is here?
We've received no comments from the room, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And anyone online?
Madam Chair, we do not have any hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to our, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Whittington, do you have any written comments at this time?
None received, Madam Chair.
Okay, fantastic. At this time, we're going to move on to action items. We have 3 action items today at tab 1 of your agenda are the minutes from the February 15th, 2024 LCB meeting. Ms. Whittington?
Madam Chair, they are presented unless there are changes.
Do we have any changes or comments? Fantastic. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have multiple seconds. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second over here to the right. Miss Rachel, I hope you caught that. Okay, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we are going to move on to Mr. Cody Johnson from Links will present the draft TDSP minor update. Mr. Johnson, you are recognized.
Hey there, good morning, everyone. My name is Cody Johnson. I'm a transportation planner with Links. And today we're going to go over the annual update to our Transportation Disadvantage Service Plan, or the TDSP. This was given in the most recent Quality Assurance Task Force meeting on April 23rd. So yeah, let's begin. So as you all are aware, the Transportation Disadvantage Service Plan is a document that's created by Links, the CTC, in coordination with Metro Plan Orlando. That's then approved by the TDLCB and then given to the Commission of Transportation Disadvantage for the final action. It's a requirement for funding under the TD program and is updated on an annual basis with major updates every 5 years and minor updates in between those. We had the most recent major update was completed last year and approved on May of 2023. So this is the first annual update since then. So a TDSP is comprised of 3 different parts: a development plan, a service plan, and a quality assurance plan. So I'm going to go through each section on some of the changes that we've made. So on a development plan, it includes things like service area demographics, TD population forecasts, identification of needs / barriers to coordination, goals and objectives, along with an implementation plan of those goals. So starting off on page 1, we updated the TDSP certification chairperson signature page that will be signed after approval from the TDLCB. On pages 2 through 5, we updated the Transportation Disadvantage Local Coordinating Board roster as of April 2024. On pages 13 through 14, we updated the Links organizational charts as of April 2024, just to reflect any staffing changes that may have occurred over the previous year. On pages 15 through 16, we updated the consistency review of other plans section, where we added the Links Transit Development Plan, the TDP, and the latest Metro Plan Orlando Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP. On pages 17 through 18, we updated the Local Coordinating Board certification sheets as of March 2024. Page 20, we updated the Links Network Service Area map, just reflecting the latest Links bus routes along with our TD service area. Pages 22 through 25, we updated the Links service area demographics tables using 2022 ACS data. Over the previous year, the fastest growing county in our region, you could probably guess, is Osceola County. It's grown 3.5% since our last TDSP was complete. On page 26, we updated the Link service area housing unit characteristics table, also using 2022 ACS data. And continuing on for section 1, on pages 26 through 28, we added a burden of housing costs table by county using 2022 estimates from the Schimberg Center of Housing Studies. So we wanted to really look at what percentage of our households in our region are burdened by housing costs. So if you're spending more than 30% of your annual income on housing costs, you're considered at least moderately burdened by housing costs. If you're spending more than 50%, you're considered to be severely burdened by housing costs. That kind of being an indicator of transit need and a more transit service. So Osceola County is the county that has the highest percentage of households that are at least moderately burdened by housing costs, 37.8%. Orange County, 36.5%, and Seminole County, 30.5%. All right, continuing on, 29. We updated the populations projections table from 2023 to 2050 using projections provided by the Bureau of Economic Business Research, or BEBR. The 3-county population is projected to grow 30% in that time frame. You could probably guess Osceola County is the highest, projecting to grow 58.2% in that time frame. Orange County, 29.5%, and Seminole County, 16.9%. Page 30, we updated the labor force and unemployment table using data from the December 2023 by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The current unemployment rate for the metropolitan area is 3%. That's consistent with the statewide unemployment rate, also at 3%. On page 32, we added a Access Links TD trips by purpose table. So as you all are probably aware, the highest trip type is medical trips, overwhelmingly provided by Access Links. 71% of those trips being dialysis related, 11% of those trips being work related, and that has stayed consistent over our previous TDSP as well. On page 33, we added a Access Links top 20 dialysis locations table, just showing the highest ridership dialysis locations in the region. On pages 34 through 38, we updated the service analysis section using the TD forecast from last year's TDSP. That's complete every 5 years. There were no changes made since then to that. On pages 39 through 46, we updated the needs assessment, barriers to coordination, and goals and objectives sections. And we also included a status column for kind of highlighting some of the status from the previous year. And I'll go over a few. So for goal 1, transition paratransit customers to the most appropriate mode of transportation. We have a program called Access Plus, where we let passengers who are able to use our fixed route service, for them and a companion to ride the fixed route service for free, so they can get used to the system, become more knowledgeable of the system, how they could use it. And over the previous year, an average of 2,366 Access Plus Links trips were completed every month. So that is, I think, done a pretty good job on mitigating some of those trips over to the fixed route service and letting our folks use that. On goal number 2, customer outreach and education. Access Links updated its How to Ride guide in May of 2023, which is a guide that's designed to help all aspects of our Access Link service and how people can use it. You can see a copy of that in Appendix 10 of the report. Link staff attended 3 outreach events since the last TDSP update. The Orange County Disabilities Outreach Board on April 8th of 2023. The Ventura Country Club Sunshine Ladies speaking engagement on April 12th of 2023. The Blind Experience for White Cane Awareness Day on October 19th, 2023. And as COVID is kind of in the rearview mirror, we're going to be looking out for more in-person events to go out and conduct some outreach. On goal number 3, improve community perception of public transportation. As of April 2024, the average number of days to resolve and close out customer complaints is 10.8 days, which is good. Our standard is 14 days. So we're doing a pretty good job there. Still continuing to try to make improvements where we can with that. We do currently have an on-time performance more than 90%, which is our standard. So we're hitting that. Our average call hold time from July 2022 to June 2023 was 4 minutes and 49 seconds. We'd really like that to be around 3 minutes, so we're going to continue to make internal kind of changes and modifications to try to improve that the best we can. And Norm will hit on this next in his next presentation, but we're actually looking to change the reservation window for TD passengers from 1 day to 7 days, which is consistent with our ADA policy as well. So TD passengers can actually call in now 7 days in advance instead of just the one day, which we think will improve call hold times. There's not a bombardment of people trying to call in at once for their trips on the next day. They can spread that out over the week. Lynx is currently testing a new GenFare mobile payment system on all fixed route and access link services. So try to improve fare payment. And that's it for that. So let's go ahead and move on. On pages 47 through 49, we updated the implementation schedule to reflect last year's TDSP major updates, so no modifications were to that. Moving on is our service plan, and this contains things like service standards, our fleet inventory, eligibility policy, monitoring procedures, and our rate structure justification. On page 52, we updated the Access Link operational policies to reflect that 7-day maximum advance reservation window for TD passengers. And on page 61, we updated the list of coordinated system service providers from calendar year 2024. Pages 64 through 70, we updated the inventory list of paratransit and NeighborLink vehicles. On page 73, we updated the Access Link service standards to also reflect that 7-day maximum advanced reservation standard. And then also on page 78, we updated the FCTD calculated rates from fiscal year 2024 to 2025. So slight increase there, 0.02%. That's consistent with previous TDSP updates. Norm will be giving a presentation on that next. Next section is our quality assurance section. And these contain results from our evaluation processes, including the CTC evaluation and the FCTD triennial quality assurance review. And no major changes were made to this section. The most recent annual CTC evaluation was completed in February 2022. The 2023 evaluation was not required because the Lynx's 5-year CTC designation was renewed on July 1st of 2023. And the most recent FCTD quality assurance and program evaluation report for Orange, Osceola, and Seminole counties was completed in 2021. This is complete every 3 years. And then some changes to the attachments. So on pages 81 through 92, we made minor formatting changes to the glossary of terms. Pages 107 to 115, we updated the TDLCB grievance procedures from those approved on February 15th, 2024. Pages 117 to 120, we updated the Lynx system safety program to reflect the latest update from December 2023. And then on pages 121 to 128, we updated the FCTD rate justification worksheets, reflecting those new rates. And then on pages 129 to 139, we added a copy of the latest Access Links How to Ride guide. So our next steps is today to get that approved by the TDLCB. We're going to be taking it to the Lynx Oversight Committee in June of 2024. It'll also be included as an information item for the Board of Directors meeting that same month. And then MetroPlan Orlando will submit this to the CTD by July 1st of 2024. So that's it for me. If you all have any questions, please.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I'm actually going to start the conversation, and I would encourage my board members. This is our bread and butter of why we're here, right? And so I would love some feedback. I just want to kind of get the ball rolling, and we're not going to attack you like we do Norm. We're really going to ask you questions. Okay. He's in the hot seat a little later. No, I adore Norm. He's fantastic. These comments, there's a lot of little changes, but they're pretty significant. And you know, when you talk about the financial burden, the 30% and so forth, are these coming back from feedback? I mean, where did the organization decide to make these changes and make these adjustments to the TDSP?
Yeah, I mean, the specifically for the housing costs, that was internally a discussion that we had, that just looking at, housing costs throughout the region, it would be a good indicator of transit need. And so it was an internal discussion on our end. to
Was there
include
any
that in the
feedback from people from organizations or someone like our board? Because I just want to say, there has been a dialogue with Norm
Right.
every time we meet, right? And he hears and he writes, and then once a year, we have all these comments where people actually come in and say, and I'm trying to wonder if has all this data that's been received through this board helped gauge the conversation where you guys decided to implement these changes and adjust them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. When we're making these changes, we're in constant, communication with Norm, receiving his feedback from what he's hearing, from the TDLCB, and then also members of the public. And so absolutely, we take those comments and include them
Okay.
in our updates.
We have a deadline because this all goes to MetroPlan and there is a financial component and there's a timeline. I would like to suggest in the future that this maybe be presented to us earlier, because we're really not in a position, just because of that timeline and knowing that when we meet again, to really dissect it. Not that there's anything wrong, to really ask more, because one of the biggest things that stands out to me when you talk about Osceola County and you talk about Orange County is a lot more dense of a county. So even when you discuss cost and factor and how you transport people in Osceola, you're talking about a much more quote unquote rural, area with a much smaller population. Of course, they're going to grow. I mean, in Orange County, we're over 1.5, they're 400,000. So, that it isn't apples and apples. And so but I don't want to belabor that part because it's really not what we need to get to. But I would love to suggest if in the future we could maybe get this in the future, or maybe Ms. Whittington could get this out to our board in the future for your own review and thoughts. It's a lot. Like I'm listening to it, and we all love this board, and I do transportation. I'm involved in a lot of transportation. And while it makes sense, I actually was writing notes and I didn't want to interject, but just in the future, but we definitely don't want to hinder this decision and moving forward on the plan that has to be submitted. But I would like to recognize if anybody please has a comment, or if I'm on left field and you're like, no, we're good, please, by all means, let me know that too. But it's just some things that just stood out for me when we're making these decisions. But yes, ma'am.
This might be for Norm or you. One, on the GoLinks website, I can't seem to find the How to Ride guide for access links. Is that on there somewhere? It is, okay. I must not be looking in the right place. But I was reading all the stuff over the weekend, and now that we've increased the time frame for TD passengers to 7 days, it appears that the How to Ride guide still reflects 1 day.
Yeah,
Reservations.
yeah, we actually included a note in that appendix that after that takes into effect, so we're
Okay,
going to take that into effect. What was it, June 1st of 2024? So next month, that is going to go into effect. We're going to update the How to Ride guide.
okay, well,
with that. So yeah. But,
okay, we'll talk.
we'll
Thanks.
we'll definitely do that.
He enjoys the hot.
I know, he loves talking to us.
This is probably for both of you, but at the last QATF meeting, not sure if it came before this board or not, but I strongly recommend that Lynx reinstate an advisory board that would bring consumers together for access links, Sunrail, and fixed route. In the past, we've had this, but it discontinued. But under ADA, it's strongly recommended that you do have an advisory board. This board, although we look at all transportation, some of what we do does not, answer the needs of folks who are covered under the ADA and access links. I'm like Commissioner, I don't want to hinder your product, but I'm going to keep saying this every meeting until it is done.
Madam Chair, if I can address
Yes,
that real
Ms.
quickly,
Whittington,
because
sure.
I think, I thank you, Ms. Baldwin, for that recommendation and for continuing to reiterate that need. And we're at a good point to call attention to that at Links. With the transition of Sunrail from DOT to the Central Florida Commuter Rail Commission, it might be an opportunity for Links to look at reinstating. We have Mr. Luis Neves Ruiz, who's here. He serves on the Sunrail Customer Advisory Committee. So there may be some appetite at Links for them to combine those, since Links will be overseeing Sunrail at that point of transition. So just wanted to make that note that we'll bring it to Links's attention.
I agree. And Ms. Baldwin and all of y'all, I'm gonna put my commissioner hat on, right? Transportation is a hot topic. And when we looked at the penny tax on the ballot did not move forward, but it doesn't mean it's not gonna come back. And in all of that, as people are getting and looking for funding sources, we need to make sure we're at the table. And we're at the table by being involved and engaged at this level. But then also, as Ms. Baldwin said, if there's an interest, if you want to have that time to make sure when they're making plans for public transit, this component is an important part of this. And, DOT is growing. There's lots of things happening on roads all around us, and the Sunrail, and there's a talk of, even Brightline. And so it would behoove us to be that voice that isn't always at those meetings. So I would encourage it, and I look forward, my leadership is 1 year here, but I'll be still on the executive board, God willing, that we do that and have that support. And hopefully this conversation can be sooner and a little bit more engaging, so that this doesn't happen. And we make sure, as the transportation process moves forward, that our needs are being met and people understand what our needs and thoughts are. So is there kind of a consensus on that? Yeah, okay. Any other thoughts? Any other? Yes,
I have
yes.
a question to ask. The trips by purpose, how important is the accuracy of, of that? The reason I say that is because it's not the margin. Now, that being said, the margin probably isn't great. But I notice, when I ride, that if I'm not going to my office at the hospital, I may have a meeting off campus. It might say recreational or social. I forget what the label is when I go back and look at the ride, and check my pickup. And I know there are others that may tutor at a Starbucks or have a meeting at an offsite location. Their labels aren't correct either. So I write a lot of grants for Orlando Health, and so accuracy is kind of important when we are applying. And I just don't know who's looking at this, and if accuracy will help you in the future if you're looking at state and federal grants or applying for monies from other departments.
Be able to answer this better, but whenever you book a trip, does it, I don't know if it asks for that. I'm not clear of that. Yeah.
That is, I'm gonna get up on the soapbox for a minute. Every morning I wake up, I would choose not to use my chair if I didn't have to.
Correct.
But it's what I do, and that's fine. When I set up a ride, when I apply and reapply, it has my diagnosis, spinal cord injury. I'm just not gonna wake up one morning and not need my chair. It seems like the dispatchers or the customer service people are more concerned about my change in status than why I'm going someplace. And I guess that's on you to decide what's more important. I would wager to guess that most of the riders aren't having significant functional changes, that they just won't need their wheelchair one day. Now, there are some diagnoses that may, but for the vast majority, they've applied for access links because they need the service.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely take a look and see how we can improve that.
Okay. Oh, yes, Ms. Baldwin.
Just a sidebar, Bob, ADA riders, they're really legally not even supposed to ask why we're traveling. So remember that caveat too.
Well, if that's the case, then a trip for purpose
I understand.
wouldn't
but
have, you know,
And if I may, just to clarify, we obviously know what the address that you want to go to the destination. So that's how we compile that data. So to the best of our ability.
and again, I personally don't care if someone asks me where I'm going and why, you know. I'm a
No, we
husband and a
don't. We
dad.
don't.
I'm either
We-
going to
we-
work
it's-
or I'm
it's-
doing
it's-
something else, you know.
It's for information purposes. We don't deny any trips. We don't,
No, and I'm not saying you do. I just, if
Right.
if knowing that more people are actually using the service to get to work, which means they're in theory, a functional taxpayer, that could come back and, because that's what legislators are looking for, especially in the disabled community. Are we providing these services so that you can have quality of life, A, but that you can go back and do what you want to do, and if it's work, you know, we need to know that as well.
Thank you. Thank you all for the conversation and the dialogue and hopefully some movement forward. Mr. Johnson, thank you. At this time, we will need a motion and a second for the TDSP minor update. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion? I think we've had that. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Passes unanimously. Now it's hot seat time. We need to change our agenda. Mr. Norm Hinkling, you are up. I know we should give you you're on.
He's in a lukewarm seat, Madam Chair.
I don't think he gets, and, this is an affectionate,
I love
harassment.
you guys, I
not-
love
not
you
a-
guys too, dear. But anyways, no, this is pretty simple on this one. This is the current anticipated rate hikes that are being proposed for your approval. They've already been looked at by the Commission for Transportation Disadvantage. You can see the percentage change, very, very minimal considering all the price pressures that we have out there with fuel, with just service, with employee wages, et cetera, et cetera. I think the team has done a pretty good job of trying to maintain a very reasonable cost on the trips. So we would ask for your approval and entertain any questions you might have. And I do know all the very extensive formulas and the worksheets are all in your agenda package under that tab 3. It is something that is done by our finance team. They take all the expenses and revenues and put that in, and it provides for this proposed rates.
Thank you, Mr. Hinkling. Are there any questions? I mean, that is an incredible only increase considering what we're seeing in cost all across the board when it comes to transportation. If there's no questions or comments at this time, I'd entertain.
One actually.
Oh, yes, yes.
Question. I've been reading through the survey and again, this is great. This is way, way lower than inflation. But I do have a concern working for a public agency, because I understand the cost of services. Are we really gonna be able to improve some of the services we have right now with such a small percentage rate?
Well, I think it comes down to operational improvements, not so much just cost improvements or spending. A lot of the improvements that you might want, like newer vehicles. I saw one of those comments, the vehicles, that's a capital. This is operational cost here. Yes,
You will take care of the capital. And
capital comes out of a completely different
very
allocation.
budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no, that's fine, thank you.
We all as taxpayers help contribute to that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Oh, it's all taxpayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just,
With that being said, do we have a motion for approval? We did in a second. Oh, there's another question. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. I think what's hard for me to understand, and this is very good, that it is such a small increase. But then I see also in the tab, there's a lot that goes into the calculation. Would it be beneficial if we had some kind of maybe just a summary or something as to, what they think happened during the fiscal year that, what improvements, what made it cost a little more, what made it cost a little less, just some kind of synopsis so that we get, I mean, it's hard to say from the calculations, but the ones that do them probably know a lot more that could help just generate that information for us.
Yeah, so you basically want to know what made that calculation of cost on their end?
We could
Yeah,
always, in the years, in the future, we could always ask finance team to come in and make that presentation.
Okay.
Or I'll
Or
turn it
just-
over to Cody.
Or just a knowledge. I mean,
Yeah.
just because it's such a small percentage, and I think of gas prices and now what it costs to get an oil change and tires and all that.
labor.
Yeah,
labor
labor,
hire,
all of that. So,
Vehicle purchases is everything, and like she's saying, cost of benefits, everything increasing and at the same time. And it may be it's very good not to criticize, but just so that we kind of have even a paragraph or two just run down or something. Not a huge amount of detail because we can look at the tab and that'll help us put in perspective what's in those calculations.
Going forward, I think we can, try to look that up for you.
thank you. And I appreciate the need for the knowledge and interest in the transparency. So thank you. So we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Madam
Aye.
Chair.
Oh, yes,
We do
ma'am.
not have we don't have a
Oh,
motion
I
on
thought
this
you-
one.
Am I over?
That was
okay.
that was the
That
last
was
one.
good.
Put the
Okay.
motion.
That was Mr. Johnson. Okay.
Okay. but I
Okay,
also
do
wanna
we
call
have a
attention-
motion for approval?
I'll make the motion, yeah.
Oh.
Well, as you, I'm
I'm
sorry.
losing control here.
My apologies, but in your agendas at tab 3 is the complete rate calculation worksheet that does go into some of that information that he was asking about. And we send these out electronically. So although it's very small to see here, you are able to blow it up on your computers. But I just wanted to call attention to the information is there. Okay.
Okay. We're good to move forward? Okay.
Yeah,
Do
I'll
we,
make-
we have a motion. Do we have a second? All right, we have a second. So we have a motion and a second. We've discussed this already unless there's nothing else. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Wasn't that bad this time. We're going to move on to presentations and status reports, the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan update in tab 4. Ms. Taylor Laurent, you are up. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much. So additional information about this update is in your agendas under tab 4, so you're welcome to follow along. But I'm here to provide a little more context on that and keep you up to date on the work that we're doing on the long range plan. So to jump right in, the background and existing conditions work that we've been doing, we have our completed public participation plan available and up on our website. Marianne will be presenting on that in more detail right after me, so I won't steal her thunder. But we've also published our draft existing conditions and area profile technical report on our website and available for review at any time. And we have continued our kind of technical work on our travel patterns and origin destination analyses, and that will continue on for the next several months. In terms of goals and objectives, those are in a draft form right now. Those were also included in your agenda packets for review today. We will be talking about those in a little bit more detail in just a few moments, so I'll keep moving along that one. And the same with the drivers of change, which are the future trends for 2050 that we're anticipating impacting how we change our thought process and viewpoints as we plan for 25 years from now. In terms of the technical work, we are continuing our coordination efforts with FDOT on the Central Florida Regional Planning Model to make sure we're consistent and maintain coordination throughout the region. And we have also continued our updates to our congestion management process. Both of those the congestion management process from the 2045 plan is available on our website. If you have any questions about that, you can let us know. Then there are several other elements that we've been kicking off since the last meeting that we've had. Those includes health, housing, and several environmental evaluations, as well as getting started with our financial resources and future revenue estimations. So we know what we're working with to figure out which projects are cost feasible for 2050. And then the part that usually gets most people excited, the needs assessments. So what are the areas that we want to improve from today through 2050 or see changes to better adapt for the coming future? Our transit, roadway, and safety elements are all ongoing, which you've likely heard most about our safety element through our Vision Zero action plan development. And then we have recently completed the TISMO Master Plan, the Transportation Systems Management and Operations Plan, as well as our Active Transportation Plan. Both of those were completed just this past month and are available on our website if you'd like to deep dive those needs assessments as well. And then we did have a technical workshop back on April 11th. So just as a reminder, the technical workshop series is open to the public for anyone to attend. We do record those and publish them onto YouTube. But that's where we can deep dive any particular topics that we may not necessarily have time for in meetings like this. We can spend an hour and a half talking about goals and objectives instead of the 3-minute version I'll give you in just a second. But at that meeting, we talked a little bit more about the modeling efforts that are ongoing with FDOT and the Turnpike, reviewed some of the highlights of that existing conditions and area profile report, talked at length about the goals and objectives, as well as the drivers of change. So a little more context on those last two elements, just to kind of keep everybody on the same page with what we're doing. When I talk about those drivers of change and future trends, we're really looking at those that are here on the slide. This is the breadth of topics. Obviously, there's a lot to unpack with each one, so I won't get into that today. We are kind of separating them into two different categories of those that are directly unique to our Central Florida region, including our demographics, economy, visitation, as well as our development patterns through today and what could happen through the future. And then those external or more global drivers of change, such as technology, changes in energy sources, what may be happening with climate and other related risks, as well as changes to state and federal policy and funding that could impact what our decisions are for 25 years from now. If you want to see more on that, I would recommend watching the video that we have up on our website. Otherwise, the draft report will be available in the next few weeks. And then the goals and objectives, this is also available in your agenda packets, but we really started with the 2045 MTP goals and objectives because we liked that plan. We've had consensus throughout the region about how we would grow through 2045 and wanted to use that as our starting point. From there, we looked at changes to federal and state guidance that have happened within the past 5 years since we adopted that plan, and then compared that to other MTPs and our neighboring MPOs and peer MPOs throughout the country to identify any best practices about how to best implement those changes in federal and state guidance into the goals and objectives. So with all that, we have maintained 5 goals, and they're similar to what you saw in the 2045 plan, just a little bit more focused and specific to our area, even more so than the 2045 documents. So I'll go over just the goal statements, the objectives I have here in case we have any topics that we want to discuss. I want to be respectful of your time today. So our first goal is safety, providing a safe and secure transportation system for all of our users. Reliability, providing a reliable transportation system across all modes for both people and freight, so our goods and services. Connectivity, enhancing lives through improved access to opportunities. And then community, enhancing the health and vitality of our region's communities and the environment. And then prosperity, strengthening our region's economy. So as you likely noticed as I went through just the goal statements, and you see it even more if you look into the objectives in more detail, but each of these items are interconnected, and that was done purposefully because we know that one change in one area does have a larger effect on the entire system. So we wanted to make sure that that was fully encapsulated in our goals and objectives and that that was intentional. So the goals and objectives are in a draft form right now. They are available for you to review. If you have any questions or comments, definitely reach out to either Virginia or myself so we can encapsulate your feedback into the 2050 MTP's development. But as we kind of finalize these draft goals and objectives over the next few weeks, we will then be starting in the next step, which is identifying the indicators that we'll use to measure our progress towards achieving and succeeding on these goals and objectives. From there, this will happen kind of after June. We'll present those draft indicators and finalize those kind of in the June-July timeframe, and then start implementing those into the 2050 MTP itself. So that's kind of the overview of where we are, and what's happened since our last meeting earlier this year. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, we're gonna ask. I think Taylor, in the future, we gotta talk about your mic. Wasn't it very light? I had trouble hearing. So, I appreciate that. We have a question over here or a comment.
Yeah, more like a comment, and it's a common question, frankly. When you're doing your economic analysis and your climate analysis, has been your outreach to other agencies?
That's what we're doing right now. So in terms of the economic component, we are reaching out to each of our 3 counties and some of our more prosperous cities to talk about financial projections that they have throughout the region. Are you able to hear me a little better?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're working on that. Those meetings are being scheduled right now. So there will be more information to come in terms of the financial revenue projections for the region. In terms of our environmental components, we're looking at that from a few different perspectives. Those include resilience, environmental stewardship. So that's kind of classified how.
Who are you reaching out for that?
For that one, we have a long list of people that we're reaching out to, so I'll follow up with you on that one.
Yeah, it's just,
Mhm.
and this is a comment, because I'm probably the only planner / economic development, that person that's kind of involved in transportation, and a resiliency person. It's very important when you do this type of plan that you involve the right stakeholders. Like, if you're gonna talk any resilience, I hope that you're reaching out to the collaborative that we have in our agency, because we had a lot of plans for the greenhouse gas inventories, an example of that. We have been keeping that at the council for several years. And I'm the economic development person right now for the region, in the fact that I lead the economic development district. So there's definitely some data. One thing that I learned, and so, I was the person who did a lot of the economic impact analysis for when we're doing the penny sales referendum. The issue we're having is that we are not really calculating the cost of our current transportation system and options. So you cannot tell the Orange County resident, I'm gonna increase your sales tax, so you will see improvements, because some of our models are not even reflecting that. And we know that transportation is a big issue in the region. Congestion is getting worse. But until we start developing kind of the tools to explain to the layperson, the public who we serve, what will be the benefit? Why are you spending 25% of your budget on transportation when nationally the number's more like 18? That's an economic issue. So we just have to make, and the reason we have that, these type of documents, because of they have a lot of people following them. And we just have to make sure that we have the right data and the right information because if we're just looking at financials, we are not gonna see any changes to our transportation system.
Thank you for your comment. And
Okay.
we'll follow up with you on those.
I did want to ask, so Orange County, we actually have a resiliency staffer. Are they involved in this process?
We will be providing updates to all of our technical staff through the technical workshop elements, but I believe they are on the list. I will confirm that.
Well, no, and it's more, are they engaged in this process is where I'm at. And
They
this
should
kind of
be, yes.
segues, I want to go ahead. I was a little late, but I wanted to announce that I was just recently appointed by the Secretary of Transportation to the 2055 Transportation Steering Committee that will put together the plan for the entire state of Florida for transportation for the next 30 years. This is obviously a requirement by the federal government. I'm one of 16 statewide. I represent the Central Florida region, and we're discussing it all. We're discussing environmental impact. We're discussing ports, trains, planes, roads, infrastructure, and space. I mean, this is the future of transportation for us. And there's a lot of components. And one of the things that when I think of our board, because when I go there, I don't take my hats off and just go as just a regular person. But what's very important to us is infrastructure, because how do we get around? Access links. So while we are looking at all these avenues, we can't abandon infrastructure, because what would happen if we can't get the ridership on the road to get us to our destination? And he brings some and they're on this board. We've got folks that represent the ports in the Panama City, to space, to environmental, like what they've done in Wekiva, how they've made the road higher to try to decrease the environmental impact. But a lot of times, and I just want to put this out there for our board, the hip thing is, oh, trains and planes and this and that. But ladies and gentlemen, our clients, our residencies, our individuals get around on an Access Links bus that needs to have a car that can pick them up and take them to their destination. So I remind people that while we're looking to the future, can't abandon what we have. And this is a worthy conversation. I'm honored that I was chosen to be on this board. It's an 18-month commitment that will be then presented to the governor, and then will be presented. But to know that Central Florida, us, has a seat at the table is very exciting. And I'm humbled that I was even chosen and invited. But I want you to know that I think of us when we're there. And this is why this board is so important to me. And probably I'm a little bit more passionate because it's personal to me. I've shared this in the past. This is a very personal board to me because my mother depended on Access Links. So I just want us to remember that. And I appreciate your comments and everything that you guys share. And I've always told you this, I love for you to share, because you all have your unique perspectives on what you do. And I take that and I try to articulate that and make sure that that's included. So I appreciate, Taylor, what you're doing. But I encourage you all, and I've always said this from day one, please know this is an open forum. I respect all of you for why you're here and your time and commitment. And I want better for us. And I want to make sure that we're not only in the room, we're at the table when we're doing this. So thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Taylor at this time? Okay, seeing none. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. That was just a presentation. So we're going to move on our agenda to our next presenter, which will be Miss Marianne Horn with the Organizational PPP and 2050 MTP PPP.
Thank you, Madam Chair. TDLCB members, it's good to be here with you today. It's been a while. I'm here to give you an update on our public participation plans, which we have been working on 2 of them in the past few months. These are the 2024 Organizational Public Participation Plan, as well as the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan Public Participation Plan. And Taylor did reference that just briefly in her presentation. These were approved by the Metro Plan Orlando Board last week, and I want to catch you up on what we're doing. These plans were up for a 45-day comment period as prescribed by federal law. We did receive public comments of all sorts on both of the plans. They were sort of traveling together because they are related. The overall public participation plan sets the tone for the entire organization and how we approach public participation. The MTP plan is sort of a subset of that, looking particularly at what we want to do to involve the public in our 2050 plan. And so we promoted these through our usual channels on social media, on our website, and emails to subscribers. You probably received some of these or saw some of these. Whenever we do this, we review our previous plans and our performance measures. We last updated our public participation plan in 2019. Immediately after that, something happened. I think you were all here for that. We had a worldwide pandemic. Concurrently, the 2045 MTP public participation plan, which is our last MTP, came in the same window as it does again. And so both of these plans were being executed during a time of extreme stress and upheaval in the public participation world, because we could not get out and do the things in person that we were used to doing. And we had to redo our whole approach. In the process, we learned a lot, and we're going to put those things to work for us now in this cycle. We also review the latest US DOT guidance. This document referenced here came out in 2023, and so we did pick up several new approaches and best practices from that. And of course, we always review other plans from our peer agencies. The overarching themes for both these plans, of course, come as no surprise to you. I think if in your association with us, you should know a little bit about our approach to public participation, which is that we do have a mix of in-person and virtual engagement. Our virtual side has grown stronger because of the outreach that we were forced to do during the pandemic time. We always try to include strategies that reach the transportation underserved communities, and we try to expand our reach through partnerships with community organizations, because right now, when there's such noise in the communications world, is being bombarded by messages day in and day out, the very best way that we feel like we can get our points across is to come hand in hand with a trusted community partner. And so we really are building and relying on some of these community groups to help us meet their communities, help us understand what they want to hear about, invite us to events where people are already motivated to come, and let us be a part of that conversation. That is the very best way we found to get our message across. So just briefly, the organizational plan, as I said, is the overall plan for the way we set the tone for public participation. It has basically two simple but meaty goals. The first is to encourage two-way communication with the community, because the truth is, if we're just saying things and we're not hearing things back, that is not communication. That's broadcasting. Secondly, we want to consistently reach out and get input from members of the public who aren't easily engaged for whatever reason. Any transportation barrier that may exist for people, whether it's age, ability, language, the lack of financial resources, access to technology, we try to find some workarounds. You know, for instance, if people are not able to take one of our surveys online, they can call us. We will walk them through the survey on the telephone, or we will send them, materials printed. So we try to always find a workaround for those things. Now, when it comes to the 2050 MTP, Public Participation Plan, this is a slightly different animal. As I said, it's sort of a subset of our larger plan. Here, the outreach has to be robust while being inclusive and accessible, because we have a window. This plan will come before our board for approval at the end of next year. So we have just a few months to get this message out to people, to get input, to get that input back into the plan, hopefully help it shape the plan. So here we will really ramp up a strong digital presence, because we've learned how to do that better, and we know that reaches a lot of people. And we're happy to be back out on the road, including people at events and meeting with people, speaking in front of groups and so forth, to help get some conversation about that there. We always get some public input at every event. We have a form that we use to record that for each event that we do, and we will be sharing that. Those reports will be available to you. And as always, we want engagement with a diverse group of stakeholders. And here is where we need your help. Here is where we need your help. You should have in front of you a sunny yellow form. It was provided, yes, there you go. That's the one. A quarter sheet of paper, bright yellow, and it says 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Help us reach out to the community, with an exclamation mark. We do mean the exclamation mark. Help us. I'm hoping that before you leave this room today, you can write on this form. And we try to make this an easy ask, because we just want your thoughts. And if you just give us your name and tell us that you're a TDLCB member, And then you see the little grid at the bottom. Please tell us 1, 2, 3, 4, however many, use the back, groups that you can think of, and these can be specific groups, they can be general groups, of people who may not hear from us enough, who might need to hear more. Anybody you can think of that we could reach out to during our 2050 public participation push. You don't have to give us all the nuts and bolts, just put your thoughts on there. If you do know a contact there, you can just circle yes. You don't have to go look up those details or, do all that right here. We can reach back out to you and see if you have that. If you don't have a contact there, that's fine. Just put no. We'll see if we can track it down. But any ideas that you have about that, we would really appreciate it. So I would love to have you fill it out before you leave today, just leave it at your place. We'll collect those. If you should walk out of the room with it still in your hands, please fill it out at your earliest convenience, and you can just take a picture of it and send it to me or send it to Virginia. She'll get it to me. Anything like that will work. But we really, really do want your help. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions or comments. I don't see anybody writing on the forms yet. You could do that. Okay. Yes.
Okay. One, how big of a group are you trying to reach out to? And do you do weekends?
Any and yes. We do all types of outreach here. We will speak to a small club meeting if they want to hear from us. We have actually given programs in people's homes to neighborhood groups, and we're happy to do that. At the same time, we also love to be included in larger events, community festivals or anything like that. If anybody, has like a community workshop or program that they would be willing to put us on the agenda for, the calendar is our only constraint. If we can make it, we will. As long as it's in Orange, Osceola, or Seminole counties, we're interested.
Any other questions or comments? I would like to ask something, Marianne. I know this is something that we've seen over and over again, and it really, I don't understand how people, all of us know someone who complains about transportation, traffic, everything. We need more trains. We don't need trains, blah, blah, blah. But yet the response back is not as high as what we all know. We could all name 5 people who have complained to us about transportation. And it is a hot topic. And I mean, we discuss it at the county, but we're not seeing that engagement. Has the media been involved? Have we had news stories? I know that this has been at your place where you're seating. I hope you'll take it. And be real, because they don't know it's you. So I like to be real on those when I don't have to put my name. But we really need all of us. I filled one out and I filled it up with some community boards where people who I just want to give you a perspective. I serve on like the Pine Castle Historic Society and Pioneer Days and these meetings where people care about their community. So I know if they care about their community, they're going to care about this. And so I offered a great thing. So it doesn't always have to be our circles. It's our friend circles, a knitting club, a group, a reading club. They care, and we need them to care because this is how this board presents to the 3 counties. I mean, the mayor and I sit here every other month with a group of elected officials and dignitaries to make decisions on all of us. So I really, really encourage you to, if it's a book club, if it's a bake club, nothing's too little or too big for them to do, because we really need to get more. If you look at us 3 counties combined, we're looking at almost 2.5 million people, but the numbers don't reflect that and the feedback that they're getting. So I encourage you all to just think outside of the box. It could even be your church group where they get together, because transportation is not political. Transportation is real. And I have said this many times, people talk about housing is very important, but transportation connects housing, work, jobs, doctors. So housing is important, But I firmly believe transportation is number one, because if you don't have that connection, everything else is just pieces on the puzzle. So thank you, Mariana. Is there any other question or comment? Nope. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. And we are going to move on to our next presenter, and that is going to be Miss Virginia Whittington with the Community Transportation Coordinator Evaluation.
Good morning again, Madam Chair
morning.
and members. Going to take us through, I want to start first of all, thank you all again for being here, and Madam Chair, congratulations on your appointment to that statewide group. We are so fortunate to not only have you here, but representing us at the state level. And it sounds as though you are one of those who won't forget us back at home when you're there. You're actually thinking of us. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you to each one of you who took time to participate in the Community Transportation Coordinator Evaluation. I'm going to use that in the second part of my presentation. The first part has to do with the Access Links TD Rider Survey, which we put out at the end of last year. And when we were getting ready to present the findings or the results of that survey, we brought it to you and we told you where we were tracking in terms of the number of responses that we had received. And you all encouraged us to extend it, to leave it out a little bit longer so that we would get more responses. When we brought it to you, we were tracking about 77 responses. And thanks to you and your guidance and your wisdom for us to keep that open, we more than doubled the responses. So we received 164 responses as a result. And so I want to just take us through those responses. And I want to also just share with you some of just a little bit of the demographics of those who responded. 33% of the respondents were ADA riders, and Ms. Baldwin rightfully earlier today mentioned capturing the ADA ridership and what their feedback is as well. 29% were TD riders. Those are the ones who we actually need to hear from when we are looking at our survey. And then 38% are not sure whether they are ADA or TD. That's an important point because that is one of those opportunities that we have to educate. And you all talk a lot in your feedback in the Community Transportation Coordinator. And I'm going to stumble over that because I'm used to saying CTC, but we have new faces. So I'm trying to not use acronyms. But when we conduct this survey and you provide your feedback on the goals and objectives that you would like to see the CTC focus on. So with that, I want to start with the end in mind. You heard Cody Johnson in his report earlier say that this year was a year that we did not need to, in 23, conduct a CTC evaluation. When there is a change in providers, we are not required to do a full-on, full-out CTC evaluation. The time is spent in helping to secure and procure the vendor. However, within 180 days of that new vendor coming online, we are to establish what's called a baseline. And so one of the questions that we ask the riders is, thinking of their experience over that 180 days, how would they characterize the service? And the response that we received, that you see on the screen, is 39% of the respondents feel that the service has gotten better. 46% feel that it has stayed the same, and 15% feel that it has gotten worse. I have given for you at your places a full data set of these responses, including the comments that were associated as the riders were filling this out. And I will also call to your attention that even though we asked for them to respond to their experience between June 2023 and December 2023, June 1st, you'll remember, is when TransDev took over, and December 23, which was that 180 days, you will find that many of the respondents are talking about their experience now, at the point of time that they responded. what have I been experiencing over the course of so you kind of run the gambit. But I just wanted to call attention to the fact that many of the responses are that moment in time. So how would they rate the user friendliness of access links of the reservation system? 61% feel that it is excellent or good, 15% feel it's fair, 20% feel that it needs improvement, and 4% of the respondents feel that it is unacceptable. On average, how much time do they spend on hold before speaking to a reservationist? This is where a lot of what you have heard over the years have come in. You've heard it more recently and you're hearing it again. You heard it from Cody this morning saying that they understand that this is one of the opportunities that they have for room for improvement. At the time that this was conducted, 38% were spending 20 minutes or longer on call holds. We've heard from many of you who use the system that it is at that time on the 30 minutes or longer time frame. 28% spend about 10 to 20 minutes. 15% spend about 5 to 10 minutes. 10% 3 to 5, and then 10% or 3 minutes or less on hold. Many of the operational improvements that you're going to hear from Norm in just a moment speak to how to mitigate this time that people are spending on the phone. And then, of course, the question is, how much time are you spending on hold? But we don't ask the question, how much time does it take to resolve the issue once you get a person? So that may be something that we want to ask as we move forward and as we are continuing to develop the survey in the future. Question 3 asked how they would rate the customer service experience. 34% feel that it's excellent, 29% good, 16% fair, 17% feel that it needs improvement, and 4% feel that it is unacceptable. We asked how they would rate the customer service experience with the drivers. About 74% feel that it is excellent or fair. Excellent or good, 11% fair. And about 15% feel that it needs improvement or that it is unacceptable. We asked on average, how often does the appropriate vehicle, one that best meets their mobility needs, arrive to transport them? 42% or 64 of the respondents feel that it's always on time and it's always the right vehicle. 44 respondents feel that 76 to 99% of the time that it is on time in the right vehicle. 10% or 16 respondents feel that most of the time. And then 2%, 3 respondents feel that it's on time some of the time and that it's the right vehicle. And 3% that it's never on time and not the right vehicle. The next question, how would you rate the efficiency in scheduling and on-time performance? In this, we asked for the A leg, which is their outgoing when they're leaving their home. And then we also asked the same question on the return or the B leg. 75% on the going feel that it is excellent, good, or fair, that they the efficiency is excellent, good, or fair. 19% feel that it needs improvement, and 6% feel that it is unacceptable. And on the return, and some of the comments that you will see speak to the return trip being more of a concern than the trip when they are leaving home. So 65% feel that it's excellent, good, or fair. 28% feels that it needs improvement, and 7% feel that it is unacceptable. Next question, we ask if they had recently applied or reapplied for eligibility and how they would rate that experience. 33% were very satisfied, 34% satisfied, 21% were neutral, 8% dissatisfied, and 4% were very dissatisfied with their experience. We ask, thinking of their experience over the past 6 months, again, how would they characterize the service? And this is the question that I started with. Again, 39% feel it's gotten better, 46% feel that it stayed the same, and 15% feel that it's gotten worse. We asked about the experience and whether they have used or are using the online web access to manage their rides. 36% say yes, they use it, and 64% or 94 people who responded said that they do not use it. I did drill down to grab some comments from this one to find out why they may not use access links, although they know about it. These are people who know about access links, the web access. So I wanted to know, like, why is that 64% not using it? Because when you think of call hold time, many of them are waiting because they want to know where my vehicle is, or checking to make sure that their trips have been booked and that sort of thing. So in looking down, many of them feel that speaking with a live person is better. One person at least mentioned that the phone and web browsers were different when you're using it on the phone, so it's more difficult for them to use it when they're on the phone. Some said that they distrust using the computer. They want to make sure that there is a confirmation, and so that gives them some pause or concern with making sure that, you know, once I hit that submit button or book button, that my trip is really booked. Some said that they don't have access. They don't have Wi-Fi access, so they may not be using it because of that. And then a comment having to do with it needing to be revamped or updated. So again, of those who do use it, they said that yes, they use it. We asked the question of how useful it is or how not useful it is to them making their trip reservations. 38% find that it is very, very helpful when they're using it. And I'll call attention to this is like 52 of the respondents. Of the 164 people who responded, 52 are in this category. 42% of those 52 feel that it is helpful. 10% were neutral. 2% feel that it's not helpful, and 8% feel that it's not helpful to them at all. Continuing on to those who did not know about the web access, we asked, you know, kind of giving them explanation of what web access is, asking if they are aware that it would help them to be able to make their own reservations, make changes, confirmations, or cancel their trips, and that they can do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from the comfort of their home. 64% said that they do know about it. 25% are not aware or were not aware of it. Again, identifying those opportunities for those outreach and education opportunities and making the public aware of what is available. And 11% were not sure. So again, that is one of those areas where we might be able to reach out to the public and make them more aware and help them to become more comfortable in using this. You know, we use it for making airline reservations and movie reservations, and you know, so we got to get them comfortable in making their trip reservations. And I think that moving forward, that might shave a lot of the customer service time to be able to really mitigate some concerns that are happening out there. So we asked the question, based on your experiences, how would you rate access links overall? Again, establishing a baseline, 29% feel that it is excellent, 33% feel it's good, 16% feel it's fair, 18% it still needs improvement, that the needle is moving, but that there's still some improvement that is needed, and 5% or 7 people said that it is still unacceptable. And then of those respondents, these are the demographics, and I want to just call out that as I was reviewing this, I noticed that 80% of the respondents are 45 years of age or older. And the largest segment of the respondents were 65 and older. So I found that really fascinating that those who were 80% were 45 years of age or older. 43% are over 65. Yes. And again, the demographic that I shared earlier, about those who knew which category they fell in. 32% are ADA. They know that they're ADA riders. 29% know that they are TD riders, and that 39% were unsure. And again, opportunities for being able to educate. So with that, I will pause to see if there are any questions about the rider survey.
We were just in here commenting. Can you go back to the age? Cause I thought you said over 45?
45 and older.
Oh, so that includes the 65 and over?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Cause I'm like 85 plus 30, you know.
It included in.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
This is fantastic. Actually, I mean, I encourage everyone, this is a lot, but to save this for when we look at our numbers this year and we get the feedback this year, this is some really good information, and the comments are very interesting. They're very real. And I appreciate that because it says a lot to us. It's a lot to take in, but it's some really great information. Are there any questions or comments? Sienna, you give it to us. So thank you, Virginia. And again, don't forget to take this, guys. Don't do this. I did it while we were here, and it's great. So
Thank you so much for
okay,
doing that.
thank you very much. We're gonna move on.
Now, with your permission, I'm
Yes.
moving on to the
Yes.
CTC evaluation,
Let's do
which
it.
is,
Yes,
as you
ma'am.
mentioned earlier, the nuts and bolts of why you all are here to provide that feedback to the CTC. And this is conducted annually, and we talk about that exception, and that exception is during the year that a community transportation coordinator is selected, that we do not conduct a full CTC evaluation. The method for conducting this, you all were sent a survey link, and I wanted to say thank you that 15 of the 19 of you responded to the survey. So you did very well in responding to that. The evaluation period covered the same period as we were looking for the feedback from the riders. And that was June 1st to December 31st. And your evaluation also covered 5 broad areas, and that is coordination, cost effectiveness and efficiency, local performance measures, accountability, and then your overall impression. And we also ask for your feedback in terms of ideas and or concerns that you may have. Again, this establishes the baseline for the new provider and then moving into this next year. So your feedback is that to ensure that links with regard to planning, Access Links ensures that transportation services complement each other and exceeds 20%, 73% of you feel that they meet the established standard, and at least one person, and we typically get this when we have newer members coming on the LCB and the timing of them coming on, we're asking them to take and respond to an evaluation, and they're really not sure what any of this stuff means. But for the most part, your responses were that they either meet or exceed the measure. Same with transport availability. You feel that they either meet or exceed the established criteria for ensuring that the appropriate vehicles. You understand this a lot better than the consumer, because Norm comes and he tells you how many vehicles we have and how many of them are which types whenever he makes his presentation. With regard to service monitoring, again, you feel that they either meet or exceed the established standard. And that is question number 3. I'm a little behind on my turning my pages here. 80%, of course, feel that they meet the standard. With regard to billing, Links has a coordinated billing system that properly collects fares. You feel that they meet or exceed that standard based on your knowledge of how they are doing that function. With regard to reporting, that they provide accounting, operating statistics, and measures related to certification and billing, as well as other information is presented to you. 20% of you feel that they exceed that standard. 67% feel that they meet it. 7% feel that they are falling a little below the threshold. And there was one who feels that that it's not applicable. And in that, if there is information that is not being shared, you all are quite capable of requesting that information, and Norm typically responds with that. So eligibility, records and certification. Access Links has created a user-friendly enrollment system. 13% of you feel that they exceed the standard, and 87% feel that they're meeting that criteria and that obligation. With regard to reservations, that they've created a user-friendly reservation system. 13% feel that they are exceeding it. 67% meets the feel that they meet it, and 3% feel that they are falling below the standard. That there's some work that's needed. With regard to trip allocation, that Access Links assigns the trips, that it's done effectively and efficiently. 13% feels that they exceed it. 80% feel that they meet the standard, and 7% feel that it's falling below. With regard to scheduling, one person or 7% feel that Links is exceeding that standard. 80% feel that they are meeting the standard. 7% feel that it is below the standard, and 1 was not applicable. Coordination of providers, including taxis and transportation network companies. Access Links has implemented a mobility services model, which includes taxis and TNCs. 7% feel that they are exceeding that standard. 80% feel that they are meeting it, and 13% or 2 people feel as though it was not applicable. Question 11, looking for general comments or feedback regarding coordination and all of those preceding questions. Some of your feedback was that although the customer answering service is improving, it still takes at times a time for anyone. It takes time for them to answer, for them to book the trip, and for the estimated time of arrival information is too long. That part is not acceptable. And there needs to be another system for simple requests. One of you said that there was no further comments. And then lastly, we've mentioned before in previous evaluations that it would be beneficial to have performance measures associated with each of the questions. Some of them are applicable to what is provided by the state that we have to give performance measures, and others are just general and broad questions, but we can work with the Access Links team to see and make sure that we have those matrices available for you. Again, you're requesting it, and we will do our best to respond to that so that you have the information you need to make informed decisions when you are responding. Last comment is that they are efficient and responsive. Based on the data that was provided, question 12 asks that Access Links, have they delivered the most cost-effective and efficient service? And the response is that about 87% of the respondents feel that they meet or exceed that standard, and 2 felt that it is below the standard. General comment regarding that cost effectiveness and efficiency. The costs on the charts seem high when comparing to the service provided by the agency. And we'll have to delve a little bit more into what that actually is calling attention to. These responses are anonymous, so unless the person who is presenting this wants to talk offline and give us some more information or feedback on what you're actually looking for there, we just inform you that that comment has been made. Question 14 has to do with the on-time performance. And this is a direct measure that it was about 88.29%. The goal is 90% of the time. And again, this was during the transition between MV transportation where on-time performance, I'll remind you, fell way below to the new provider at this time between June and December. It was up to 88%, and the goal is 90% or higher. 47% of the respondents, you felt that that was satisfactory at that time, and 53% feel that the improvement is still needed. Another matrix that you look at very carefully and closely is the call hold time. Between June and December, it was running at about 5 minutes and 45 seconds that people were on average on hold. And the goal is 3 minutes. 1% of you felt that this was satisfactory. 73% felt that it needs improvement, and 20% feel that that is unsatisfactory. Commendations and concerns. The matrix here is that the established goal is 3 valid concerns per 1,000 trips. The average at this time was 2.9 concerns per 1,000 trips. 11 of the respondents, or 73%, feel that that was satisfactory. 27% felt that it needs improvements. Some of your comments regarding the local performance measures was that on-time performance is improving and call hold time still needs work. It would be helpful to have data on the concerns so that the QATF could look for patterns on common issues with the riders. The biggest problem for these people is needing more staff, which has been difficult to maintain. I know that Norm and the staff have their hands full trying to meet the standards set when they need more people. I hope that that can change for the better soon. Although there's room for improvement, the service provided is commendable. The overall satisfaction with access links and the services being provided, 93% feel that it's satisfactory, and that's 14 of the respondents. 67% or 1 feels that it still needs improvement. And the customer service accessibility from the point of the user, 93% of you feel that it's satisfactory, 7% feel that it needs improvement. And Norm will talk about one of the improvements that's already being made that will probably make those numbers even better. The public awareness, again, the amount of time that the Links team goes out and conducts public outreach. They did 1 public presentation, and again, this is between June 23 and December 23. And you heard Cody in his report that there were at least 3 during that 1-year window. So there were more. It was just what was captured here. 4 of you feel that that was satisfactory, and 10 feel that it needs improvement, and 7% or 1 person felt that it is unsatisfactory. Overall comments regarding availability. There should be at least 2 to 3 outreach efforts per quarter. Glad that someone mentioned Links needing more staff because that would certainly require more staff for them to be able to go out that often. More public awareness programs are needed. Links should have a disability advisory committee for the access links and fixed route users advocates. And partnering with other community agencies may lend itself to being very helpful. Maybe 1 or 2 more public outreach events should help. More community outreach. And a question, is there a reason why Links only conducted 1 public outreach or public presentation? This is very disappointing to see, especially if they are trying to inform people about using the bus or TD trips to continue to meet the demand of spreading the funding out as much as they can. So overall evaluation of access links, all of the respondents feel that it exceeds or at least meets the needs. And then the general comments or feedback, access links does a good job for the most part. There are areas that need improvement. continue the good work that you're doing with your new provider. Thank you for the mobility services to the disadvantaged community. And issues are to be expected. And unfortunately, not everyone will be happy no matter the efforts. Overall, Lynx is providing exceptional service. And one additional question that we ask for feedback in prioritizing the things that you see as places to improve. And I grouped these into the responses that were received under first priority. And what bubbled out there is the need to improve on-time performance. 6 of the responses that were received there, and I would even mention or put time management in there because I think that may be what that person may have meant. Second priority, improve the call hold time. And the third priority, which I actually brought in some comments from a fourth priority. I just put them all together because that public awareness came up to the top there. So those are the 3 priorities that you are looking for. And the improvement timeline was consistent within 1 year to be able to make those improvements. So Madam Chair and members, that is your CTC evaluation. This will be transmitted to the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged by June 30th, along with that transportation systems development plan that you heard about earlier. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to respond. Thank you.
Do we have any questions or comments? It was very thorough, Virginia. So we appreciate it.
Sure.
Madam Chair. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, thank you very much. And now it's time for Mr. Norm Hickling with our Lynx Mobility Services Quarterly CTC report.
Sure. Once again, thank you very much. And good morning to everyone. So very quickly, because I know we're running late and everything. So we'll do a quick overview, talk about the trip demand, Lynx performance and with that trip demand, customer service activity, which really comes down to the call center, some technology, some opportunity summary, and some questions that you may have. With that, trip demand continues to increase. We had and we'll show you the numbers here in just a minute, an 8% increase in the first quarter from the same period back in 2023. On-time performance sustained above 90%. And we've been doing that for several months now. So we're pretty proud of that. One of the things that you brought up and you saw in the evaluation, et cetera, about the call center, high volume still coming in. 40% of all the calls. So when you look at the numbers, I want you to think 40% of all the calls are asking for ETAs as to where my ride is. And a lot of those calls they were supposed to be here at 8 o'clock. Well, the window is from 8 to 8:30. So if they're calling 8:35 because it's late, that's a fair call. They're calling at 8:05 asking where the ride is. We're kind of jumping the gun. And not to belabor the point, which I will later, just fair warning, is some folks will say, well, I'll wait on the phone until the ride actually arrives. We're not going to tell any of our reps to ever hang up on somebody deliberately. So, okay, so we kind of get into a vicious cycle there. So, and then that next person that's calling that wants to get in, that's why they're in a kind of a hold nightmare, if you will. So again,
That's ridiculous.
You may, Bob.
Where do
I don't work for you, Bob. In a way I do, but you know how it would be the first time that somebody hung up, we would hear about that complaint also. But anyways,
Well,
and
I'm
then
not saying hang up, but I mean,
we do.
callers should know better.
We do try to educate them. Why don't you call us back in another 20 minutes or so? Should the ride not be there, and we can try to track where it's at. So we do that. And we do that all the time. Yes, absolutely.
Recorded message when you're on hold, that if your ride is less than a half an hour from your window, please hang up.
And we,
call us. Yeah.
again, all these things we're trying.
Well,
Yes.
people are stupid.
Well, okay, I'm gonna move on because this rabbit hole is gonna get me in trouble real quick. So, and the previous comments were not Norm Hickling's comments. by
Just for the
any stretch.
record, Robert Melia did not say that.
No, I just, Your Honor, I'd like to revise my remarks immediately, please. But anyways, technology improvements that we're trying to do to help with some of those phone calls. And then just the paratransit fleet, and just very briefly with the information, some of the folks talked about the old vehicles. We are trying to address that. So trip demand, you can see there's the 8% increase. There's calendar year 23 for January, February, March. And then you can see where we are at in 2024 increase. I can tell you in April, we did 56,000 trips. I don't know where we're at for May right yet. So we got a lot of reconciliation when the period ends. But anyways, April was a big jump. So a lot of demand for trips. But you can see the trips are going up. And this is when we started the contract with our current provider. You can see on-time performance. Yes, back in June was 88, went to 89, kind of dipped down there a little bit in August, but you can see the last 4 or 5 months, we've been above 90% there. So marked improvement there. So that's really good. And again, for information purposes, we do know what the trip count by purpose is. You can see unemployment, but if you look at like Cody talked about medical and dialysis, cancer trips, if you combine those two, by far they are the #1 trip purpose that people have. So we take that into great importance. Although we don't prioritize any trips, we don't, one trip is just as important as the next one, but we do recognize that we are a major part of keeping people healthy. Speed of answer, we had a lot of talk about that. March, it was 5 minutes and 40 seconds, the average speed. But again, 40% of that 53,000 calls that came in were looking for an ETA. And so there is an opportunity for improvement there on both the customer service side, our side, and also on the customer education too. So I'll leave it at that. So something we're going to have to continue to work on, and that's a work in progress. But, there have been weeks where I've seen the number got down to 3 and 4 minutes, and the team has worked really hard to improve that. It really depends. It's all, weaved together with that day's performance, with that day's number of calls. That's why you're going to see, and that's why we've asked for that approval from this board, is to allow us to go to the 7 days on the TD calls. We think that will spread out a lot of those calls, which will help. Even though the number on a particular day may go down, we'll still have those calls during the month, but people can make those reservations. And it's an equity issue between ADA funded clients and TD funded clients. That way they're both on anywhere from 1 to 7 days. And we think it's going to help out a great deal. So, and you asked how soon we can start putting that in. On a soft, we can start doing it almost immediately, but we want to come out with a campaign and update like our How to Ride guys and put stickers in there so it's going to take some time, and it's a training process. Also, now I know that I can do it 7 days instead of 1. I don't have to call today for a tomorrow trip. I could have actually called a couple days ago. So
ex-TD rider, I used to have to get up before you guys were up to be on the queue before
Right.
the money ran out for the
Right.
next day. And that was terrifying.
And it's hard if you're at work and you only get half an hour, 35 minutes, 40 minutes for lunch, and you're on the phone waiting the whole time for a ride the next day. So that's why we think we can alleviate a lot of those and just make it, again, a lot more equitable for everybody across the board that rides Access Links. With that, one of the things that we have done and been very proud of, and Betsy's not here, but we've worked with dialysis centers. So we've come out with the My Portal. This is a tool that TransDev brought with them when they became our provider, that we can load this onto the dialysis center. They have it on their computer. They can go to the My Portal, and they can see all the trips that are coming to their location that day, and they can actually track the trips without having to make a call. How come Mrs. Smith isn't here? They know where Mrs. Smith is going to be, if she's going to be a couple of minutes late or a couple of minutes early. So that has been well received. And even at the Quality Assurance Task Force, without any prompting, Betsy was very complimentary. And so we appreciated that. So this is something that will continue to roll out to even employment centers as time goes on. And we think this will also help. Plus, we are still working on this and we are gonna, again, when these slow come out and roll it out at the right time is, as we educate the community, is a My Transit Manager, which on your smartphone, then you can actually track your own trip without making a call and you can see where it's at. So at this time, you won't be able to make any reservations or anything. It's just purely to track your trip that's already been scheduled either through the web access and or with the mobility services rep, but you will be able to see how your trip's progressing on that day that you need to be picked up. So that will be forthcoming here in the next short period of time. The opportunities that we have, like we talked about, call center, that's always going to be there. The technology with web access and mobile app improvements I saw very briefly. I've only seen these comments for the first time this morning, so I need to go and digest them a little bit further. I saw a couple that folks had problems with the web access. They didn't think it was the convenient, so we'll have to go take a look at that. Analysis of the fleet. One of the things that we know, we have a very old fleet. Useful life on one of these vehicles that you see right in front of you is 5 years or 200,000 miles. Most vehicles that we have in our fleet have just about met that requirement, at least on miles wise. Some of them are still a little young, but they will be programmed to be surplus in a very short period of time. But right now we are looking at replacing those. We got 57 brand new vehicles on order. We hope to start seeing the first few coming in to delivery the end of August, first part of September. And then every month thereafter, we'll see some vehicles being provided to us. I have a board letter that's going on next Thursday, excuse me, on the 23rd. It's going to go asking for approval for another 15 turtle tops and 20 other types of vehicles that will have lifts and everything, but they'll to expand our fleet because we really want to try to get our fleet up to 190, 200 vehicles versus the 182 that we currently are maintaining right now. Trips still well over 50,000. I probably need to change that, but based on May, it's probably going to be 50,000 or 55,000 plus. Got new vehicles coming. The existing fleet, we are changing transmissions, having to change engines just to keep those vehicles going. And while they have a new engine, doesn't necessarily mean the exterior or the interior is all that much better. So we know they're old, but we're trying to keep the fleet going because we don't want to deny any trips, and nor will we deny any trips. Call center policies and procedures, we're still working on that. Customer focused technology, as we talked about. And then we got special events that are coming up. We know, like we have the Special Olympics are starting this weekend down at Disney. We got the National Federation of the Blind that's coming in for a convention. Thank you, Marilyn, for letting us know about that. So we prepare for those because we know we have individuals coming from out of state, out of our service area that are going to be asking for accommodations. So we take care of. And the one thing before I go to questions, I just wanted to share with you, if you ever read Travel and Leisure magazine, I guess Orlando was voted the #1 wheelchair accessible destination in the country. And they mentioned access links in there. So we're kind of proud of that, as they having those types of vehicles that can get people around. So, so we'll leave you on a good note. So don't mess it up by asking any hard questions. So anyways, no. Anyway, so that's it. Questions?
Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mayor.
Just had one on the measures that impacting your increase or the improvement to the 91% or 90%, maintaining that. Have you identified those measures that are keeping you there?
Vehicles.
The vehicles?
It's the vehicles. Yeah. Yeah. When you are scrambling, it's the number of vehicles, it's the types of vehicles, and yeah, that's, I mean, the team's working really hard between, Lynx and Transdev, working really hard to stay above that 90%, but it's a challenge. And newer vehicles will help
Well,
that.
definitely do.
Any other questions? If not, I'd take this as a win and
I'm out of here.
All right, there are 2 general information items in your packets. planning grant report, January to March 2024, and a report of operator payments. And they're in our packets. There's 3 upcoming meetings, all on May 23rd. Metro Plan Orlando Safety Speaker Series, which is held virtually, the Links Board at the Links Central Station, and Sunrail CFCRC Board at also the Links Central Station. We're now at member comments. Are there any committee members who have any comments? Seeing and hearing none. This is the second opportunity for public comments. Comments heard at this point in the meeting are more general in nature and similar to the first. Comments may be made in person or online by those joining us via Zoom. Members of the public joining us virtually who wish to speak will use the raise hands feature on the Zoom screen. If attending by phone, you can hit *9 to raise your hand or request to be recognized. When you're called, staff will unmute your microphone and will ask you to state your name and contact information for the record. Miss Lisa, do we have anyone on wishing to comment?
We do not have any hands raised on the virtual side.
Thank you. And Miss Rachel?
We've received no comments, Madam Chair.
All right. And Virginia, were there any submitted by email or phone?
None received, Madam Chair.
Well, then this concludes the business we have before us today. Our next TDLCB meeting is August 8th at 10 a.m. It will be held here at Metro Plan Orlando. And if there's no other business to come before us, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget to leave your yellow sheet if you filled it out.